Welcome to the Clippers to Cannabis podcast, episode 1. We're absolutely thrilled to have Jordan Herring, the founder of Hidden Valley Genetics. Ladies love him, men want to be him. Jordan Herring is a good friend of ours. He's a true professional. Jordan, welcome to the Clippers to Cannabis podcast. We really appreciate your time. We know how busy you are. And thank you for coming in to share your story with our audience.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Jed.
More than welcome. More than welcome.
Absolutely.
So, mate, I mean, for everybody at home, Jordan's got an amazing story, and this is episode 1 for a reason. I think this is going to be a bit of a ride. So strap in, and let's go.
Let's go.
As Jordan,
let's go,
as Jordan Herring says, let's
Absolutely.
go.
Let's do it.
Okay, question 1, Jordan. Can you tell us about your journey and how you got started in the cannabis industry and what led to you becoming such a successful cannabis entrepreneur?
Sure. Well, started a long time ago, a little over 20 years ago. Moved around the Pacific Northwest. Was born in California, but raised in Washington and Oregon. And by the time I made it to Eugene, that place is full of the hippies. So when I was 16, I was able to take part in my first little backyard grow at my buddy's house. And, always had a passion for cannabis, always, against my mother's wishes, of course.
Sure.
Was very into cannabis, and I knew there was something more than just getting high. There's a lot of medical benefits. Even as a young man, I knew that. And, as I got older, it's pretty crazy, but I wasn't in the cannabis industry for a few years there, and I had gotten into professional martial arts. So at that time, amateur very much so. But I had gotten into it, and it actually led me to meet someone who was in commercial cannabis space, and he saw me struggling to make ends meet by doing sales, and because I was a struggling fighter, I wasn't making much money. It doesn't pay much unless you're at the very top. So he brought me in, and he showed me the way, and my good friend Alan Penners helped me build my first commercial style grow, and the rest was history.
So if we could just rewind a little bit.
Sure.
And, you're a professional fighter, right?
Yeah.
That's an amazing achievement. Since I can remember, I've had a passion for boxing, and, it really is a passion of mine. I love that sport. And I have nothing but respect and love for fighters. I've never trained anywhere near the level that you have, but I have dabbled and dipped my toe in, as they say, and I do understand how difficult that is. The thing about that journey as a fighter, it's, like you say, the money is not good at the start. And can you tell us and tell everybody about how that first started? You say martial arts. What was the first martial art that you went into? Tell us about the first gym you went into.
Okay. Actually, the first gym was in Poway, California, and I was driving from Corona, California to Poway. It's 80 miles, so over 100 kilometers each way every day to train. My friend had found a dojo in the Yellow Pages, right, back when there was phone books, and found it, and I saw him excel greatly, very quickly. And we had always spoken when I was growing up. I was doing a lot of backyard boxing, and Mom wasn't into me doing any sort of martial arts. So I would just, after school, we'd all box. We'd box, and I had been bullied really, really bad at my first high school, like really bad, and it always made me want to not have to be in that position. I always really hated bullies, and that sort of led to where I'm at now. A lot of the martial arts was to be able to protect. That's really what the original basis for it was, is to protect your family. And so I didn't want to be involved in that. I always looked up and watched boxing since I was a kid, and I went into this gym, man, and the teachers brought me in, and I was training every day, from 5 p.m. till 11, 12, 1 a.m., 2 a.m. every day, and led to me being able to travel the world to train with some of the best and get a fight, and wound up in Thailand, actually in 2007. So I have been here before. I came back in '08 and came back in 10. So I was actually getting to live here for a while and train with the guys. They brought me in and they showed me their national sport, which is something that, for foreigners it wasn't around for that long, that they were coaching foreigners. It really only started in maybe the 90s, and even then they looked down on you. So, but they brought me in, they trained me, they coached me in, and I got a fight, over here in Thailand, and it was a beautiful thing, a crazy experience, and some crazy fights, lots of injuries. But when I made it back in 2010, I was so beat up, and I'm trying to make ends meet, and so my buddy showed me the way to really grow, the way to really, make some good money doing it. And of course, back then, everything was medical, actually, at that point. And so we were able to grow 99 plants medically, and so that was really where it all started. It was to fund my martial arts habit. Mm-hmm. That's really what it was. And so I was able to take care of the plants in the morning, go to training, come back, take care of the plants, go back, head to training, and then at the end of the night, take care of the plants. And that blossomed into me opening a gym in 2012, mixed martial arts, and really at that time was focusing a lot on the Muay Thai aspect of it, and was able to hire a lot of the fighters that were in the same position that I was in. And being so close to the military base, Camp Pendleton out there, a lot of military, when they get out, they need the sense of camaraderie. I mean, you would know, right?
Well, sure, yeah.
Yes.
I was 5 years in the second Regiment, the British Army, so I know that life. I did it for 5 years, and it is what it is, the military. I mean, I've got so many mixed feelings about it. First, it's an amazing thing for somebody who hasn't got anything. It saved me. But now I'm older, I look back and I think it's a confusing place for a young man. Mm-hmm. You're being taught, you're being trained to do things that go against your nature, really. Mm-hmm. But the thing is saving you. So it's, when I think about what you've done with giving the fighters and military guys an opportunity, to earn more, I really respect that. It's a real positive way of doing it, giving them a profession. The military is I don't want to sound anti-military, because I love the military, it did save me, but there is something about it that's very dark. Mm-hmm. That kind of deep-rooted, it's a very deep-rooted feeling that I have about it now. The job that the military does is very important, as we all know, but you've got to do that job. I think deep down that it's not correct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a lot of these guys, when they're getting out, and there's not really programs for them to help re-enter society.
Yeah. And
especially for the combat guys, which a lot of my guys are combat guys or were combat guys when we were in the war in the Middle East. Mm-hmm. And so coming back from that, the things they saw, the things they did, and now all of a sudden this camaraderie they had, this sense of purpose, this goal, this mission, this drive, plus all the physical activity, coming out of it, martial arts is a great way to re-enter back into society and understand, okay, I do have goals, I have aspirations, I have dreams, and, for a lot of them, fighting is their life. And so now they've found another way to be able to get rid of that energy. PTSD is a real thing. These guys see stuff and have been a part of things that civilian can't understand. Mm-hmm. And so I believe that, through the martial arts, it's given a lot of these guys a second chance. Whereas, I know one gentleman for sure would be dead today if it wasn't for mixed martial arts. Mm-hmm. And even though he's retired now, he trains every single day. He's opened a gym. He's done great things for himself. And I believe martial arts saved his life. Significant numbers of men, and I know it's a minimum of 6 from his unit that have killed themselves. Mm-hmm. And they get out and they don't know where to go. They don't know where to turn, and they want to be that strong, military guy. And, inside they're all torn up from what happened. And so martial arts is just, it's a means of, a new life and a new chapter for them. Mm-hmm. And then, some of them, it's hard to find jobs. As weird as that sounds,
Yeah.
military guys don't always, fit in the workplace, right? But when it comes to processes and procedures and things like that, I mean, I could teach them growing. They can delivery drive.
Yeah.
They can do these types of things, So to be able to give them, opportunities to work is another amazing thing that, the mix of the martial arts and cannabis is able to do for these guys. So very cool stuff to have been able to be a part of, and to be a part of these guys' lives.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I think that's very special, and I think it's it is very close to home for me. I had my own struggles when leaving the military, and now I'm older, I can kind of see, what that process was about. So I'm sure a lot of your guys felt this way. When you join the military, normally you're from a poor background and you don't have a lot going for you. That's generally the guys who join the military as a soldier, not as an officer. So you go in with no self-worth, really.
Right.
And then you become the person in your family who's doing something with their life. You get a uniform, you're a proud soldier, you're trained to use a weapon system, whatever that may be, depending which part of the military you join. And when you leave, it's like the hardest breakup in the world.
Right.
Because you leave the forces, your friends that you've served with are still in, and it doesn't take long before a lot of those serving guys stop talking to you. The positive male role models that you have, your sergeants and your corporals, your seniors that you really look up to and respect, they're gone.
Right.
And you're kind of right back where you started. So it takes an enormous amount of strength to, get your life in order after the military. So that channel that you've created for those guys is it's close to home for me, and it really is amazing. It really is amazing for them to have that, because I know, most military guys feel like that, and that's all you want. You just want to be somebody again.
Right.
So mate, nothing but love and respect for that. For doing that for those guys. And what you said about the following processes, well, trained soldiers are just, they're taught to listen, you barked at for so many years. So, my business in the UK, the guy who runs that is the guy I served with, and he's brilliant. Just does everything he's supposed to do. I think they do make great employees.
Right.
It's just the weapons training doesn't transfer into the civilian life.
Yeah.
What can you do? I can drive a tank. What good is that to a civilian company? So I really like that. And is it fair to say that you don't need security at your place then? You've got all these fighters and strong men who can, are military trained.
Yep, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely not. Yeah, they're we've got the toughest bunch of guys in our gym, and I can say that because, all these other gyms, a lot of those guys only know how to do hand-to-hand combat. All my guys know how to use weapons. So, I would say a majority of the students are Marines. And being close to the base, and it's not just guys getting out. We've got active Marines that actively fight, professionals as well.
Yeah.
And their units, it's sort of like they have an understanding, but they let them do it, and it's like, well, you guys are just going to become better at your job,
Yeah.
We got one guy is a demolitions man,
Okay.
One day he's diffusing bombs, the next day he's throwing bombs.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Pretty cool. It's a tough bunch of guys, but I'll tell you what, some of the most humble, incredible characters that are in my life I've met through the martial arts. In fact, I would have to attribute everybody I've met almost was originally through the martial arts. So, some of my closest and greatest friends, so a majority of the people in my life were as a result of being in the sport, and it's been a really, really cool, fun ride. Coaching is some of the hardest but most rewarding stuff on the planet. Especially you're holding pads, you're just getting hit constantly. It's still the same. You're just getting hit the same amount of pressure. It's just with foam pads in the way. It still racks the brain around. They're the unsung heroes of the fight game. I'm not talking about necessarily myself. I'm out here in Thailand doing business right now, but back at home, some of my students, people below me, as well as my guy Jake Hesselgrave, who was been there with me, fought in Thailand with me since the beginning, and he's running the gym now. Name of the gym, Coastal Combat. Check it out, San Diego, California.
Yeah.
Shout out.
Follow those guys on Instagram, and it's nice to see. It's an impressive page.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, we're doing pretty well. We're doing pretty well out there. Things are going really good. So I got my nephews. They're solid kids. A couple twin brothers, killers. One of them's out here visiting right now.
Just met Josh recently.
Yeah, did.
What can you say about Josh? Humility,
right?
Is the word.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Very impressive guy. I've not known him long, obviously, and don't know him as well as you do. But my first impressions of that man, you can't say anything negative about him.
Sure.
Humility is certainly the right word. By rights, he could be the big cheese, arrogant guy because of his achievements in the fight game, and he's just not. He's the opposite. Lovely guy, and it was an absolute pleasure spending some time with him recently.
Yeah, great kid, and absolute killer.
So it's an observation of mine, watching you guys work. We are associates, and I've spent time with many different organisations here in Thailand, and observed how they run their operation. So an interesting observation about you guys is they all have that fighter's spirit, the work ethic. Your guys don't think anything of working 14, 16-hour days.
Sure.
The whole team, even the guys who weren't fighters. And it seems to me that you've installed that in your team. Can you talk about how your fighting career has helped you in the business world?
Yeah, man, greatly. Honestly, I've always said that, that I've treated cannabis like a fight. And, you got to train, and then the fight comes, And I think that it built work ethic in me, not only because my father instilled that in me very deeply. A good man, Stephen Herring, absolute good man, salt of the earth. But fighting, it taught me about this, be able to push past limits that you thought that you had, mentally be able to go further, go deeper, and not, listen to what other people are saying about you, and focus really on the goal, focus on the mission, as you like to say, Jed. And so, I think that my team, they're all amazing people, and there's definitely reasons that I keep, these ones around me, but at the same time, it seems like, they all feed off of not just my energy, but each other's energy. And as, I get in the trenches with them. Mm-hmm. I've done every single part of this job, and I do it. And when I got here to Thailand, it wasn't that sitting back and putting out fires on the phones anymore. It was right back to where I started, right back in the grow, not just working on some breeding projects, and like the labor work, and teaching them and training them. And I got William Youngblood, my director of cultivation, by my side. That guy, he can outwork anybody. The guy's just right there with me. We've done 19-hour days here in Thailand, and we see the same goal, we see the same mission. The same with Alan. Alan's been with me when we were doing 15 hours out in a field. I got a shovel, he's on the tractor, he's off the tractor, he's grabbing the shovel, back and forth. We got spotlights, trying to do our 99 plant outdoor. And, I think we feed off each other's energy, and it's just the same thing in the martial arts. When you get a good group, your teammates, your battle buddies, you're going to war with these guys every single day, day in, day out. You're trying to, put each other in positions that the normal person would be like. My friend would say to me, well, why do you go get attacked every day? What are you doing? Yeah. And there was a goal, there was a mission, there was drive. And I do the same thing with cannabis. A lot of people, cannabis really like to take shortcuts. They like to, I'm going to buy the cheap equipment. I'm gonna hook this up the very inexpensive way, not the right way, and I'll take care of those pests tomorrow, or I'll clean that mess up tomorrow, or tomorrow I'll get the dead leaves out. I don't need to get them out today. These things, and I seen that in the industry, and I was like, whoa, these guys can get away with that and still succeed. What if I was to actually put my all into this and go a step above? And it really worked. It worked, and I see the same thing that I see in my gym back at home, is that it's created this family environment. Just the attitudes of everybody, and this isn't like some sort of slave driving thing. This is like they love being there. We love being there. We all love each other. We've got 11 Thai employees now, full time, and they are just the sweetest people on the planet, and they work their asses off, and they're asking for overtime. They're asking to learn. They want to know new things, and we're teaching them new things, and they're just super happy. They're getting promotions. They're becoming this well-oiled machine that at the first part of being here and hiring Thai employees, it was very like, oh man, we're moving slow here at this pace. We're not like, oh, I hope it's not going to continue like this. And then all of a sudden it just starts clicking, and we started seeing the light, and we started just, really becoming a unit. And now we're seeing it, that the plant health is amazing. We're getting incredible rooting success with our clones. We're seeing, a very clean environment. We've got no bugs, no pests, no mold. These are not guys who came from a background of, IPM, being able to just, oh yeah, I used to, do pest management for this company. No, these are people that we're having to train everything that we know, and they're putting their all and their effort into it because they see the bigger picture, and we're able to take care of these people and help them with their families and help see them succeed and move on into bigger positions in the company with more responsibility. And there's a lot of correlations between fighting and what has happened with my company in the cannabis industry, and it's been an incredible thing. And now I have Alan, I got Will by my side, and they've picked up their lives. They've come out here with me, and on this crazy mission to Thailand, and I've given them shares in the company. We're partners now, and I want them to feel that sense of, hey man, this is our thing, This isn't just me. You guys aren't just working for me. Like we've been doing this since the beginning, and let's take this to the next level. And the way that those guys work, and Will's making new SOPs, and we're getting it translated into Thai, and it's just been such a good thing, to see everyone come together and to build what we've built together. Yeah, and it's been amazing.
I mean, one of the things that I thought when we first met about you, observing you with your staff was this guy treats his staff well, and the I'll do it tomorrow is a disease nobody wants, and I think it's testament to you as a leader. The way your staff behave, the way they work, none of them have got that attitude. I'll do it tomorrow.
Right.
Will, shout out to Will, amazing guy.
Yes.
Seen him pulling himself up on the water tank when he's got a hernia. Crazy guy. You couldn't keep that man at home.
No.
He was going to work,
Yes.
No matter what. And the guy, God bless him, he was in pain with a hernia. And, what can you say about that? It's amazing. And I think, a really important observation I made at your organisation was leaders create leaders. And I've seen that with you. You're an amazing leader, but you also allow them to be a leader as well. You've got these people who come here, and Thailand's got cheap labour, and they're just right. Using people, paying them the minimum they can.
Sure.
And I've seen it at your place. You pay the guys well, you treat them properly, with respect as it should be, and they've all got their own role. And they can step into that leadership role within the company.
Yes.
Which is very impressive and refreshing to observe.
Absolutely, man. It's been great. You see it to transfer back to the martial arts world again. You see it with the younger guys that come up through the ranks, and then they're teaching classes or they're teaching techniques, and we're seeing that within our group. We're seeing, the leaders standing out and taking the other ones under their wing, and this is the way that we should be doing it. And we've been able to put people in management positions already. I've only been in the facility for about just under 4 months, and people have already been off their probation period. They're crushing it. They're making more money. They're making more money than they ever have. And I can't stress enough how much I wanted to help take care of the Thai people and the people who are suffering, and the people who are going through hurt, they're going through pain, they're going through trials, tribulations. When I got here, because when I got here, I was just some skinny white kid, some parang, who it's just like, are you, what do you do? Oh yeah, let's see.
Farang is what they call Westerners over here. So Farang,
yes. Foreigner. Foreigner. So, and they took me in and they showed me technique and they gave me the gifts of the art that they used to protect their country for thousands of years, and so I have a deep love for the people of Thailand, and a big, if not the largest part of my mission here is to come help change this place. Jack Herrera had a quote. It said, I don't know if hemp will save the world, but it's the only thing that can.
Yeah.
And that quote rings true as we're finding all these microcannabinoids and finding out what they can do medically. We're seeing in CBG, we're seeing it eat cancer cells in petri dishes. The Thai strains, I think, reviving them and finding out, doing proper research and testing on them, and seeing if we're able to breed some of these microcannabinoids that might not be present in some of the modern day genetics or the Western genetics or the Spanish genetics. Maybe there's something really special in there that we can find that could really change the world. And so I've made it a mission out here to get in touch with some of the people who have been doing growing in this industry in Thailand for over 20 years. And actually you just went on a trip with me and we got to meet a gentleman who was working with the Queen. And now you and I are both going to get to start doing some work with him. And it's just getting to meet people like that, getting to meet the doctors and the scientists and the people that are ready to really start, taking modern technology and modern day genetics and modern day breeding practices and are willing to implement them to make a change here in Thailand, and to see, Thailand be the hub for hemp and cannabis of Asia, and if not greater than Asia. And so I'm really excited to see what happens here. In the coming years.
B2 Jordan, that trip we've just been on, we've just been to Chiang Rai and Chiang Mai, a 6-day trip, and it was incredible.
Yes, it was.
It was really incredible, and one thing I'm really excited about from that trip is the offer that I feel honoured to have been included in that offer to go up into the mountains to see the tribes up there.
Yes, yes.
Do you want to talk a bit about that and what you hope to achieve from that, and what it's what it feels like to be offered just to go up there, because we can't go up there, right? We can't go up there alone.
No, we can't. That's so. For those of you who don't know, the Hmong people are people of the mountains in the Golden Triangle, right? So they've been for thousands of years growing hemp up in the mountains, making their clothing, their food, their houses, all out of hemp. And so they're actually located back in California. There's a large growing population of them there that have, during the cannabis boom, they came in and they're growing medically, and you'll see these 99 plant farms scattered all the way throughout, the area. And so it's been very cool to do work with them back at home, and then come out here and get invited to where it all started, and I think that there's some genetics hiding there that have been with those people for thousands of years that are gonna, not just the cannabinoid section of it, but the industrial hemp side. I think that there's things to be done in that area, You know, there's things to be done. There's a reason that Henry Ford was using hemp to make his first cars.
Mm-hmm.
The majority of the vehicle, you know, all hemp. And then the prohibition started. And it was a pretty crazy, tumultuous time in America. And really it was over Anslinger's paper mill, right? So he had timber and he was making newspapers for the majority of America. And when hemp came through and they found that they could make paper out of it, it became time for prohibition by him. So he started doing all these sort of propaganda videos that some of you might have seen, Reefer Madness being probably the most popular. And that created a widespread madness using race and using scare tactics to scare people into to classifying it as a Schedule I substance for no medical purposes. And this is a plant that we're talking about that's changed countless people's lives. Children suffering from seizures, you know, people suffering from chronic pain and inflammation, people suffering from cancer. I mean, it's undeniable now, and you're seeing a massive shift in the world. The fact that the federal government in the United States hasn't fully pushed legalization above 0.3% baffles my mind. It's 2023, but we're making progress. And big shout out back to Jack Herrera for really pushing that movement back in America to get the medical cannabis in 1996 instated in the United States. And, you know, a lot of the work that he did really brings us to where we are today with legalization, not just in America, but across the world. Because a lot of times, you know, countries follow suit when America does. And, you know, I'm not saying that out of like, oh, you know, look at us, America. It's just, it's just what happens. And we're seeing it in the cannabis industry. And so it's very cool to see Thailand step up. It was one of the Queen's last wishes was to legalize, you know, and she had a hemp garden she was growing for, you know, decades. And so the people of Thailand, I think, are embracing it. You know, there's some people taking advantage of it. And that's one thing that, you know, from the illegal imports to taking advantage of, you know, quote, cheap labor, you know, to take advantage of the tax system here. There's a lot of people out here trying to get the quick money grab. And that's not what it's about. That's not what I'm about. That's not what my company's about. You know, we're about that foundation. That's the foundation of your business as well, as standing by integrity, and, you know, doing things like that. You know, it's got no room for me in that area. I want it to be nowhere near it. Yeah. You know, and as a boy, that's shout out to my dad again. You know, he instilled that in me as well as a young man, morals and values, and it was further hardened in a foundation by martial arts. And, you know, sort of carried me to where I am today. So I hold those morals and values true to the cannabis business as well. And I think that if more people would start to do that, I think it would not only be easier for them, but it would be easier for full legalization and proper research being done in the medical field for cannabis. And so I hope and pray that that's where the future of this is going here in Thailand. And I think that with the new rules and regulations, it's going to squeeze out a lot of the guys trying to take shortcuts, and we're about to see a real boom for the people who want to do it right and proper and who want to really focus on how can we help the people, not just the people of Thailand, but of course, you know, everybody that can benefit from what we can manufacture and grow here in Thailand due to the weather, you know, due to the climate, due to it is cheaper here to make cannabis than it is in, let's say, you know, the United States. But yeah, I'm just looking forward to seeing where it goes. Where do you think the cannabis industry is going, Jed? Here.
Well, I know where my organisation is going, and it's very much in line with your organisation. You know, we you know, we're personal friends, and we do have the you know, the same standard for others. Let's say. You know, I know you're full of integrity, and it's something that I put before myself, you know what I mean? And you know, we want to do everything the right way, you know, as much as possible. And that's in every area. You know, we will not get involved in anything that is illegally imported or, you know, in terms of products. We won't get involved in counterfeit, you know, and we treat and pay our people properly.
Yep.
It's very easy to come to Thailand and employ people to do the job you want, to help your organisation succeed, and underpay people and treat them badly, because people here will probably accept that a little more than they would in the West,
Sure.
unfortunately. And I feel quite strongly towards the people who are taking advantage, of the system and of the people. So I'm very proud personally to be leading the way I know how, leading my organisation in the right way, doing everything right, and looking after the people, creating opportunities for the people. And it really is great, Jordan, to see you doing the same thing, and the short time that we've kind of worked together, I've learned so much, and I hope maybe some of you guys have too as well with us.
Absolutely.
But one thing's for sure, we're definitely on the same page in terms of doing things properly, and I hope that continues. And I think all we can do is continue to lead in the right way, and like you say, the people that are doing the opposite, I think they're in trouble, to be honest, when the regulations do come in. So, the main thing I want to see is the Thai people do well. This is Thailand, we're guests here.
Yep.
And I want to respect the culture, the people, the system.
And you got a wife that's Thai.
Say again.
I said, and you have a wife that's Thai.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, happily married with my beautiful wife, Jem.
Yes, sir.
And she's a star. She helped start the company, and we've just employed her father.
Amazing.
He's a lovely man.
Amazing.
He's a
He
lovely
is.
man, and he works so hard.
He's done work on my facility and done a great job.
He did.
Yes.
He did. Yeah, he did.
Yes.
And and he was treated so well there. He was buzzing when he came home. And I hope he doesn't mind me saying, but he wasn't treated very well before. Before he came to us, and what we're talking about, what's happening to him, he was being exploited, and I just wouldn't have it. I said,
Right.
let's get him here.
Yep.
Get him here, and we'll pay him properly and look after him properly. So long may that continue. Let's move on to question 2. I think that's a nice place to leave it. I've got a feeling this is going to be a long one. So question 2, Mr. Herring. Hidden Valley Genetics has gained quite a reputation in the industry. Can you share with us the story behind the company's success and what sets your genetics apart from others in the market?
Yeah, sure. So basically I got my seed breeding and genetics license by the U.S. federal government back in 2018. So we're the only people in Thailand currently right now that's backed by anyone with that licensing. And so that's really taken us off to the next level. But originally, I started, the business clones in my closet, man. And
Literally in a closet.
Literally in
Right.
a closet.
Okay.
It was just to sort of see how the market was, and found out how the market was, and was very shocked. I was shocked to see that people weren't doing their own vegetative state. So this is many years after I started growing and after I started commercial growing. I just thought everybody was doing their own clones in house, and once I started to work out the math and work out the labor, and I realized that people could actually make more money if someone makes the plants for them. This big.
Sure.
And people weren't offering that because, when it comes to the vegetative side, that's where a lot of the labor happens. If you take trimming away, the majority of the work is done in the veg. And, keeping your babies, healthy is totally different than keeping your mother plants healthy. It's totally different than keeping your flower plants healthy. But what I will say is the vegetative side and the flower side are two separate businesses. And that's the way I see it. There's different environmental conditions, and there's different ways to treat it. There's everything different from what you're feeding it to the entire environment that they're in. So, some genetics are going to react really well in veg and grow like crazy, and some are not. But those ones that don't might, in the flower stage, be something that's very, very special. So every single part of whether you're in veg or bloom to me is a separate business. So what I found was that people can actually make more money off the square foot that they're growing when it comes to flower. And so I figured if I could specialize in an area that people just didn't want to do, that I could find a niche for it, and it worked, and it worked out, and you know, we were doing very, very well back in the United States, one of the top providers of genetics, and so now just recreating what was done back there, just in a totally different environment. And I'm not even necessarily saying growing environment, because right now everything's indoor, but definitely outside it's a different environment. But politically speaking, you know, environmentally speaking, as in, you know, the people, the customer base, the farmers here. You know, there is a lot of farmers here that are very inexperienced, you know, and it's the beginnings of things. And you've also got people coming in from other countries, and people with a bad reputation where they came from, trying to get a new start here. You and I know we've both had to deal with people from those parties. So things here, you know, transferring, you know, Hidden Valley and getting it out to here it's been exciting. It's been a fun process, but it's been a trying process. So now to have it an international company now has been pretty cool, and that's sort of the journey that we've been on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very, very cool, John, and you know, one of the things that I love about, you know, your kind of ethos is you know, you were a professional fighter here. You know, you've not just come here like a lot of people have done for a cash grab or to do things the wrong way. You know, Thailand really does have your heart. You know, can you talk about, you know, what this country means to you?
Yeah, this country changed my life, you know, for the better. Coming here, you know, Bangkok and Pattaya, which is where I was spending a lot of my time at Camp Sityotong in Pattaya. I was not down there for fun, trust me. You know, there's a lot of people having fun around me, but we were, you know, out in the swamps every day doing 5K runs and jumping on tires and jumping rope and, you know, sparring with each other and doing 2, 3.5, 4 hour sessions a day, you know, 3 to 4 hour sessions a day, morning and night. You know, there was no fun. I had a leash around my neck, right? There was no like time to really go enjoy Thailand. But what I did was, for me, was it turned me into a different man, a man that really respected this culture to another limit. The way people treat each other here is different than America.
Yeah.
It's completely different. I'm not saying everyone here is amazing. There's bad apples in every single country in the world. But there are sure as shit a lot more bad apples in the United States. All right. And, you know, I love the U.S. I'm an American, and till the day I die, you know, I love my country. But there's something to be taken from this culture that Americans could really learn.
Yeah.
And that's just having respect for others, having respect for yourself, and having respect for your family. Because I see a lot of the opposite back where I come from. And so Thailand's, you know, taken my heart, it's softened it up, and it's really made me, you know, have a deeper respect for human beings in general. And it's an eye-opener. And if, you know, you're coming from the West and you haven't been out here, you should come see how it really is. And how happy these kids are who have absolutely nothing. You know, there's families that live right next to our facility, and they're in little metal shacks, right? And they're some of the happiest kids. They're out there with their dad and mom. They're learning how to ride a bike every day in front of the facility. They're kicking a soccer ball against the wall, and, you know, they're doing all this stuff. And I go to America, and I just see, you know, this screen get put in front of the kid, and I'm like, what's going on here? And, you know, there's just a different type of respect and a different type of humbleness here that I just appreciate. And so I'm happy to be able to come here and get to teach the Thai people, you know, proper growing practices, techniques, bring in good genetics, and also work on bringing back the genetics that have been here for thousands of years, that their people have used, you know, for everything from medicines to textiles, you know. So it's just, Thailand's got my heart. You know? Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can see it in most things that you do, mate. You know, it really does radiate out, and I would absolutely second, you know, what you've said there. I'm from Manchester in England, and it's not to compare it to the States, but I think there are similarities, and I think one of the keys here is the family is very much alive. You touched on it just a second ago, and the family is very, very important. In the Thai culture, and the parents have the respect of the children, and they all kind of work together for the family. And unfortunately, that's lacking back in my hometown. For whatever that reason is, it's just not alive. And I think that's. I think it's a very important thing, and like you say, if you haven't experienced that, people should come here and see that.
Yeah.
It's really is the way it should be.
Yeah.
That family unit is important, and unfortunately in the West it's very broken in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
And that, it kind of permeates into society. There's this. There's a word in Manchester for describing certain type of person called a roadman. Right. So a roadman is. Somebody who's on the road, he might sell a bit of this and that, and he's stereotypically, obviously, he's disrespectful, and he tries to intimidate people, and he's a bit of a bully and that kind of thing, So normally you see those people in groups of 10 or 12, 15, and they're young, and teenagers or in their 20s, and it's that kind of like gangster, wannabe culture. And I personally haven't seen that in Thailand.
Right.
I mean, in Manchester, where I'm from, if I see a group of 10 teenagers in the street at night, I'm a grown man, and I will cross the street.
Yeah.
Because those kids are wild.
Sure.
And I've never seen that here.
Right.
I've never seen it in Thailand. It may exist, it may not, but I've never seen it. Groups of teenagers, they're well behaved, and they're more worried about what the parents are going to say if they do behave like that. Which I think, needs to come back to the West.
Yeah.
It really does.
It feels like the family name still means something here.
Yeah, sure.
It really does.
Yeah.
And not wanting to disrespect that family name, I think that's something that was lost in translation some time ago in America, which, and I'm, you as well, I'm sure out in Manchester, I'm sure that the family name probably meant a lot more, back in the day.
I think so, definitely. And I mean, we could talk about that for hours. There's so many nuances to that.
Right.
Sometimes the family name's got no right to be given any respect.
Right.
There's some really bad cases, and it's complicated, isn't it?
Right.
It's complicated. I don't know how the West has got into such a state where the family's concerned. The family should be strong. It should be everything, and you can really see it here. Really see it, and I really love it.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a nice point to move on to question 3.
Sure.
Mr. Herring. Starting a business in the cannabis industry is challenging. What are some of the biggest obstacles you faced along the way, and how did you overcome them?
There's lots.
Let's go.
Lots. Oh man, cannabis industry has been a roller coaster. It has been an absolute roller coaster ride since the time I got on the tracks. And we've seen the ups and the downs in the markets. And normally we've been able to see trends, and the same trend every year. The big harvest comes right after the summer. Everybody's trimming. There's a flood. Prices dump, even in the indoors, And then you see the scarcity start to happen towards the beginning of the year because there's been no outdoor crops, And that was also all the way throughout America. Up until 2015, California grew about 92% of America's pot. So it was actually illegally shipped out of California and shipped across the United States. That's just the way it was. Yeah. Not to mention, I have no idea about, exports overseas and things like that. But because of the weather, in California, and the northern part of California having up to close to 18 hours of sunlight per day, they naturally, these plants stay in veg. Whereas here in Thailand, because it's a 12-hour system, they'll go to bloom as soon as you put them outside. So, we've seen those dips. The outdoor market sort of was able to drive around the indoor market a bit, but then as people got wiser and started becoming more connoisseurs, the indoor market somewhat stabilized, and then right around COVID, things were really hot for a minute. People are buying up weed crazy, thinking the world's going to end.
Yeah.
And then you've seen a massive, massive plummet, 2021, 2022. I went to Hall of Flowers, which is a cannabis event. It's one of the largest ones in the United States, and it's pretty much a growers event. So all the growing brands show up, or the brands that put other growers' stuff in packages and sell them, right? But it's really supposed to be for growers. And I went 1 year, and then they had it, I believe, 4 or 6 months later, maybe it was a little bit longer than that, and 40% of the brands were just gone. They were not at the event. And as the year before, you get the whole schedule for the day, then you've got, okay, we have all these after parties. You're supposed to go, you meet the people you're supposed to meet, you move on, go to the next one, whatever. The following one, it was all one big party. Everybody teamed up to make one party because nobody had any money. Everyone lost so much money in the cannabis industry. People are making prices drop. They're in a race to the bottom, and so we saw a lot of brands fail. A lot of investors' money just get sapped up. And so we were able to make it through those times. And, back in the States, everything's still rocking and rolling. But now we're here in the cannabis market in Thailand, and I've seen a real roller coaster ride since I've been here. Since January, I've seen prices go from 400 baht per gram purchased by the dispensary, and now they're not buying for over 150. Mm-hmm. So get ready, Thailand. This roller coaster ride that we're on is going to be real. They'll stop the illegal imports, probably drive prices back up for a bit. They're going to shut down a bunch of grows, probably going to drive prices back up. And hopefully it starts to balance itself out for the people who are doing it properly. But, the 2018 when hemp went legal and everyone and their mother started pouring cash into hemp, all these corn farmers and wheat farmers, they, with no knowledge of cannabis, heard, okay, hemp's legal. Oh my God, how much is it? I'm going to take my whole life savings and put it into hemp. Mm-hmm. And these guys have these open fields of hemp, and they're like, what do you mean we have to dry it and cure it? They have no drying facilities whatsoever, and now you're seeing fields of mold. They're trying to learn about how to harvest and how to dry, and it's already too late. The rains have come, and we saw, a massive shift in hemp. Hemp went like this, and then boom, straight to the bottom. Mm-hmm. And I lost a lot of money doing hemp. I mean, a lot of it was research and development. I was able to do some really cool stuff with breeding in the hemp world, and with CBG in particular. But man, I lost a lot of money, and a lot of other people lost a lot of money. So it's been a crazy ride. It's been a crazy ride from the medical market, from the black market to the medical market to the rec market has been, nonstop, and then it's still federally illegal.
Mm-hmm.
Technically, it's just as bad as crack or heroin, which is bonkers, right?
Yeah.
So I think, going through the things where they would tell us, hey, you can have up to 99 plants. Medically, you're good to go. You're legal. You're good to go. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, they're raiding people. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, I have this stuff on the door. And they're like, yeah, well, not in our county. And it's like, well, this is supposed to be from the state of California, not in our county. And so they just come in, they take your stuff, take your money, and, countless friends, I've had that happen to them, and, I've had it happen to me. So where you've got the paperwork and they just don't care. The sheriffs would come and or they bring FBI and ATF, and they're not there to arrest anyone. They're just there to rob you and get out. And, you follow all the rules and the regulations, and still there was a very gray time in California where it was scary. You're like, I'm doing everything you guys asked, and you guys are still messing with me. I don't know what to do. So there was always this weird back and forth between, oh, it's okay, it's not okay, it's okay, it's not okay. You could do it here, but don't do it over there. So that was really tough, you know. But I think, you know, having to lay off employees due to, you know, after growing due to what happened in the market was probably the hardest thing I had to do.
Yeah.
I hemorrhaged money for months and months to try and keep my people employed.
Yeah.
I hemorrhaged it. And I got to the point where I was just giving money away. You know, there's nothing I could do. I mean, that was probably the hardest thing I've had to do. You know,
Yeah, and you know, I can see that with you, Jordan. You know what I mean? You're an individual that deeply cares, you know, about the people in the organisation, and that shows. So I can only imagine how tough that was.
Yeah.
You know, and I believe you when you say that. You know, that was tough. You know, I feel like we're in better times.
Yeah.
You know, and God willing, they are better times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
This market, you know, I think it's going to have its ups and downs, as you say. But you know, again, people like yourself are going to ride that wave.
Sure.
You know, so that one. How did it feel once you got to the other side of that? Because I'm sure you know a lot of people during that period that are no longer trading, you know, or no longer in business anymore.
Mm-hmm.
How does it feel having gone through that and picking up the lessons, you know, through that process?
Well, I mean, you got to have a lot of resilience, you know, and I think that, not going back to fighting, but, you know, after I lost the fight, you know, it was like the darkest time in my life, you know, but then to be able to get back up, you know, say, okay, that's okay, it's just a fight, you know, train, get ready, and then go win a fight.
Yeah.
Right? And that for me, that's what had to happen. You know, we're still going in, you know, the highest, most saturated market in the world, California. And we've been able to make it through and make it to the other side. And yes, I've definitely, you know, wished that I still had every employee employed, you know, but we're crawling our way back. You know, we are. But, you know, if someone's in the cannabis industry in California and you're telling me that you didn't have to lay off some employees during that time, you're a liar, or you had a big investor.
Yeah.
And that was okay with pissing away money.
Yeah.
And that's what you were doing to your investor, and he didn't know it. Because other than that, every other person that I know in the industry had to lay people off. There was no way to get around it. And how many businesses just collapsed? And, you know, already because the market drop here, you know, we've seen businesses collapse, but I haven't seen any of the guys who are growing 10 out of 10 weed collapse here.
Yeah.
I haven't. In
Yeah.
California, I've seen guys growing some of the best weed in the world, and their business is done.
Yeah.
So to be able to ride this wave here, our good friend Baba Fett, and I've repeated this quote many times, right now you're either producing medical or you're making 10 out of 10 weed,
Yeah.
or you might as well pack up and go,
Yeah.
period. And if you don't have the genetics, if you don't have the grower, and you're not creating the environment, you might as well pack up and go,
Yeah.
because this market has no room for that. It just doesn't. You know?
This is something, you know, I appreciate how honest you're being about the market here, because this is one thing that we wanted to do on this podcast, was give people an insight from the professionals to the reality. Because you touched on it earlier about this, you know, people thinking it's a cash crop and they can just come and throw some money at it, and we've both seen that many times, you know, that doesn't work. You know, the reality is not as good as what people think it is, you know, and that's why people like you and your organisation are so important, you know, for this market, you know, because people need people like you and your guys to learn from, so they can make a success of their grow operation. And you know, long may that continue, mate. Long may that continue. You leading the way.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. And you as well with your company. You guys are
Well,
doing it too.
sure, mate. We are absolutely doing our best to do everything right, you know. And if we can do anything, we want to lead by example, you know. No bullshit, no leading people down a path, promising the world and delivering nothing. Just good, honest service, You
Sure.
know, myself and my staff will bend over backwards for our clients, and that's the most important thing to us, is our clients. And that's it, because without them, there's no business. Without business, you can't contribute, you can't help others, you know. So that's absolutely number one for us, you know, and long may that continue as well.
Yes, sir.
Okay, mate. So, question number 5. As a founder, what qualities and skills do you believe are essential for success in the cannabis industry, and how have these qualities helped you grow and thrive?
All right. Have tough skin. You know, be ready to, you know, if you're just getting into it, you know, do your research. You know, because this is farming, science, and art. That's what this is. This is people think, oh, it's just a weed, it grows. Yeah, get that out of my face.
Yeah.
Oh, you can just, money grows on trees. Get that out of my face.
Yeah.
Come work with me. Come work with me for a week. You know, let's see if you think that this is just easy money.
Yeah.
So if it's the same thing I say to my fighters. If there's a new guy at the gym, and say, hey, if your desire here is to make a lot of money, you need to walk out that door.
Yeah.
Okay? Because if you do start making money, it's not going to be for years and years, and there's going to be so much hard work along the way. So get into it for the passion. You know, if you enjoy this business, get into it. If you're an investor, I implore you to really find out about your master growers.
Sure. Yeah.
If I hear master grower one more time, I'm going to lose my mind. it just bothers me. You know, it's just...
It does get thrown around, doesn't it?
It gets tossed around, man. It really gets tossed around, and especially when it's self-proclaimed, you know? And you got to watch out for that. If you're an investor getting into this business, make sure you vet your people. Yeah. Because the last thing we want is you guys coming in here, pissing your money away, and enabling these guys to do this to not only you but to our industry. Yeah. So I implore you to do your background, your research, talk to people in the industry, you know, find out, because there are a lot of scumbags, you know. And so another thing would be to really, you know, if you don't have a good judge of character and you haven't in the past, you know, really bring in someone who does. You know, bring in a professional, bring in someone that can vet these guys for you. You know, there's just a lot of copies, a lot of fakes. You know, we see that from the products to these master growers. And so it's not something that, you know, if you've got an 8-lighter, I think Bob said this as well. If you got an 8-lighter, that don't mean you could do a commercial grow. Yeah. These are two different animals. These are two different beasts.
And after 8 lights, it really changes, right?
Yeah. Now it's okay. You know, 8 lights. Maybe you can by yourself, if you really want to. At least you get trimmers. You could do a 16-lighter. You know, if you want to do it perfect. But when it comes to getting past that, it's no longer a hobby. It's no longer like just fun. You know, you're getting into a business now, and you know there's going to be a lot of things that are coming against you when you come to that and you come into this industry. So I think that, you know, really doing your research, doing your homework, and making sure you can really, that you can really succeed by being, you know, as founder, it's like you got to be able to lead, right? You got to be able to lead. And if you know that you can't lead in a situation, you need to have the funding to hire someone who can. You know, if there's a certain part of it that you cannot do, and you're just, it's out of your depth, you know, you need to be able to hire somebody to do that for you, because, you know, if you're taking on things that you don't really know about in this industry, it will eat you alive. Like if you think that you know about pests and you don't know about pests, then you're going to have real issues. If you think that, you know about viruses, viroids, and you don't, they're going to get you. They're going to bite you in the ass, because there's going to be little tiny things that you don't notice about the plant that it's trying to tell you. And because you don't have the experience with it, you're not able to see it before it becomes too big of a problem, right? How did you get to that position in the first place?
Yeah. So I hear a lot of people saying, SOPs, I've got good SOPs, you can follow these SOPs and do anything, but, it's not the case, is it? You need that time served with the plant. I'm not a grower, I'm a box mover. But I can see that from the organisations I've observed and been involved with. The guys who think they can just put somebody in there, put a team of people in there, follow this, that and that, they're always going to come unstuck.
Right.
You remember the amazing farm we visited in Chiang Mai, the big greenhouse operation that was very nicely put together. I remember him saying it. It's he's altering things every day.
Yes.
Every day, depending on how the plants are.
Yep.
So you can't simply just follow a booklet and grow 10 out of 10 cannabis.
No. And don't expect, even if you've got the greatest growers in the world, that your first run is going to be perfect.
Yeah.
Because you got to dial every room. Every time you're in a new location, there's things that have to be dialed in. So like you said, it's a non-stop process. Like eventually you want to be at a point where, yes, everything's running in flow motion, but that's not because you push buttons and it's a set and forget. It's because you train the people underneath you to see the things that you see, right? You have to, and if you can't, then you need to bring someone who can. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm the best guy in the world at finding pests as they start. I'm not going to say I'm the best guy in the world. I'm good at it. I'm very good. But my guy Will is better.
Right.
My guy Will, that works along my side, can see things before I can.
Yeah.
And he makes me better.
Sure.
Right? And without him, maybe there's some things that go uncaught.
Yeah.
And then where are we at? Or, I'm not able to go out and do what I'm best at, or I'm not able to be in the room breeding, or I'm not able to go out and, and network and try and push the business to a further point. So, but even if I am there 100% of the time, I know that Will can do that job better than me, and that's why I keep him by my side.
Yeah.
And he's been there in the trenches with me, taking grenades.
You made him a leader, right? It's back to the old leaders create leaders. You made him a leader in that space, which allows you to go out and expand the business.
Agreed.
This many years ago. I can't remember who said it, but it was don't get so busy working in the business that you're not working on the business, and that's that concept. If you're stuck in the business, I hate to be in the office. What I mean?
Right.
Now we're getting staff now. We've got Nick, who's amazing and brilliant. She's taking a lot of workload off me, so I can spend time growing the business and out visiting the farms. Like exactly like you're doing. I think it's very important. And what would you say to somebody who's looking at Thailand now, who doesn't have the knowledge and experience to set up a profitable grow operation, but they've got money to spend and they're thinking about it, and they're thinking about putting money into the industry here and setting something up? What would you say to somebody like that as a piece of good advice to kind of guide them in the right way?
First of all, get ready for the ride.
Yeah.
This is something you want to do, you get ready for the ride. But if you were thinking about doing that and you don't know anything about the business, you need to do your research. You need to do your research. You need to do a deep dive. You need to go to it depends on what country you're in, right? I'm thinking America, I would say you need to go to your local hydroponic shops and vet all these things. Like those back in the States, it's one of the things that I love that you're doing here is we could always go to the grow shop, to vet things or vet people, vet products, vet all these things. And I'd say really get in line with your grow shop. If you've got a grow shop local to you, get in line with them. If you're trying to invest from overseas into Thailand, you better know that you can get everything that you need before you get here. Because let me tell you what, sir, before I was able to find you guys, and before we did a lot of research on a lot of products, and you've done a lot of research on a lot of products, we had a lot of plants die. Like I'll take for instance, we had a rooting gel the rooting gel was working good. Like the fourth time we used it, new bottle, little bottles, right? Because we're doing trials. And we dipped those cuts in there, and within an hour, they had melted where the gel was and just flopped over.
Wow.
I've never seen that in my life.
Yeah.
Now, I'll never use that product again, obviously. But you got to vet your products out here in Thailand. And that's one good thing that goes on between you and I is that, I'm able to help vet products. You've been able to vet products for us, and you're also tied in with Icon, a long-standing company. And that's, it's, meant the world to us to be able to have someone like you guys with customer service. So, you got to get in touch with the grow shop guys, because guess who they're dealing with? They're dealing with the growers.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, and to kind of add to that from my perspective, I'm not a grower, I'm a box mover, and I don't have the knowledge, don't have the in-depth knowledge like you and your team have. But what we do get in this position is a well-rounded view of how everybody's doing.
Sure. Because
we're dealing with so many different organisations, and we talk to our clients, and we get the stories. We tried this and this didn't work, and it's totally valid what you're saying. I understand that. That's where we can really add value. And help people succeed. Use that knowledge to help people succeed. Okay, mate. Well, let's move on to question 7.
Cool.
The cannabis industry is constantly evolving and changing. How do you stay ahead of the game and adopt new trends and technologies to maintain your competitive edge?
Okay. I'm going to steal a quote from my guy Will, but it's always be a student, right? Always be ready to learn. Always be ready to vet what you're learning too.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think, getting a competitive edge, starts with genetics. I think that's where it originally starts. You can give the best grower in the world bad genetics, and you're going to get bad weed.
Yeah.
You can give the worst grower in the world good genetics, not the worst grower in the world, but a subpar grower good genetics, and still at least get a harvest, But with bad genetics, I don't care who you are, you're just not going to have a nice harvest. Unless you've got years to work on breeding it with something else.
Yeah.
So it really starts there, and that's the model.
We've seen that, right? We saw that on that amazing trip we went on.
Yep.
We saw some really 5-star facilities that should be growing 10 out of 10, but the genetics aren't quite there, unfortunately. And
Yes.
I know you're going to be putting that right and fixing that, for people in that position.
Yes, sir.
So it's it makes perfect sense to me, as I'm not a grower, as we know, but of course it makes sense. That's where it starts.
Yep, absolutely. It starts there. And once you've secured those genetics, that's good. You find your source for them. I think you got to find your source, and now you got to make a proper facility. And if you think you're going to come into this and just throw a little bit of money at it, and whatever you think the investment is going to be, get ready for that to double.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Get ready for that to double. Because you're going to get out here and you can do. If you do proper vetting and you do everything perfect, and you really plan it out, and you really find out what the products are going to cost, what are the best products, what is everybody saying are the best products. I got the best genetics, good. I got the best grower, good. I've got the best facility, good. Oh, did I get the electrical upgrade? Shit, I got to get that too. All of these things combined, you've got to have that itemized list down to a T. And one thing I love about my guy Will, I'll keep bringing him up, is that guy's got a document with everything that's needed from A to Z.
He's very meticulous, isn't he, Will?
He's meticulous.
Yeah.
And he is just an absolute stud when it comes to things like that. So you need to know what you need to buy. You need to know what it's going to cost. And you need to know all of this stuff ahead of time. And then you need to have a lot of money for the stuff that comes up, because all sorts of things are going to come up. And the way that you can try and mitigate that problem the best is by really properly planning everything out. I mean, how many times have we heard of guys who've gotten the wrong size of lights for their room? And now, their contractor's like, oh, that's not going to work there. And they've already bought them. And it's just, it's a constant headache. People waiting till the last second to get important things like dehumidification.
Yeah.
People just putting themselves in a situation where it's hard to succeed.
Yeah.
So, and also, before you get genetics, I don't care if you get them from me. I mean, I do. I'd love you to please get them from me. But if you don't, make sure your room's ready.
Yeah.
And also make sure that you account for the dehumidification once the plants are perspiring. Please make sure that you're looking into all those things before you just try and throw some money at this. Because I've seen a lot of guys try that and fail. And guess what? The prices have dropped so far here that you can't take any shortcuts.
Yeah.
You're going to need to do it perfect, and you're going to need to do it or as near perfect as possible. We don't, we strive for perfection, and I'm going to get as close as I can, but you got to get close if you want to thrive in this market, or you better be ready and tied up with a crew to export medically.
So dehumidification in Thailand is something that keeps coming up for us as an organisation. Pretty much every client, I would say every client that we've got has had some kind of issue with dehumidification. And do you want to talk a bit about that and why it is an issue in Thailand and what people need to do about that?
Sure, yeah. Well, I mean, the humidity here from outside is absolutely crazy. There's a couple of places in Thailand where, a good amount of the year it's lower. But if you're coming out here thinking that you're going to just pop up a greenhouse, good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck. A lot of people are worried about the heat, and I'm sitting there telling them, hey, man, we're growing in up to 125, 130 degrees Fahrenheit in Northern California. The heat's not your problem. The humidity's your problem.
Yeah.
And going back to the investor thing, or anybody who's trying to found something here, this is a huge piece of advice I should probably charge to give out. But if you're not worried about humidity when you come here, you've got another thing coming, because that is the number one battle that you will face when you're here. Yeah. Besides all the new bugs that we're learning about and different pests and things like that are here that we're getting to learn about, because I've gone out and I've talked to the locals and I've talked to the guys who are growing here. I've talked to the Thai people, and I've learned about them first. And it really goes back to, I don't know, use IPM from Athena, right?
Yeah.
And alternate with sulfur every couple of weeks. Once again, I'm giving out some IP here, but that's not anything you can't find on the internet yourself.
Yeah.
You want to keep your garden clean, you come to this guy and you get yourself some IPM, and you make sure you stay consistent with that, and then you're going to have clean plants. But yeah, there are different pests out here, or different. When we were up visiting that farm up north, I had never seen whiteflies like that.
I'd never seen that either.
I had never seen that many, number one. Thousands.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
Yeah.
And they looked like little Tic Tacs. They were bigger than the whiteflies, but they were a perfect rectangular shape. And they looked something different. But I mean,
It was a swarm, wasn't it?
It was a swarm.
It really was a swarm.
It was an absolute swarm. And if there's one virus in that entire scary mother room that we were in, so some of the most sad vegetative plants that I've ever seen. And if there's a virus in there, that whitefly's going to suck on that plant, and it's going to go to that plant right next to it. It's going to suck on that plant, and now that plant's got that virus, and now that whitefly's going to the next plant, and then its baby whiteflies are going back to that plant and going to another plant over here. And before you know it, you've got a virus in the whole garden.
Yeah.
That's just me talking about one itty-bitty bug that looks like it's a nice little bug. Oh, it's not biting the plant.
Yeah.
Okay, no. Your plant's getting attacked. It's struggling to survive rather than struggling to thrive. Right? And that's what you want. You want it trying to grow, trying to produce fruit, trying to do its best. You don't want it sitting there getting attacked by bugs all day. And I mean, how would you feel if you were covered in thousands of spiders?
Yeah.
and they were biting you nonstop.
Yeah.
You know, so you have to think the same as for your plants.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I think it seems to be more important here than anywhere else.
sure.
You know, with the bugs here. So that was very interesting for me. You know, somebody who's not a grower. You know how that all works. The bugs that can transfer one virus to another plant and kill the whole place. It's so important. And would you say that prevention is better than cure in that situation?
Oh my God. Yeah. Prevention is the only way.
Yeah.
Because once it gets to the point where, like we saw at that farm, what did I tell him? I told him, nuke it.
Yeah.
I said, you kill everything here. If you want my genetics, I will not bring them unless you kill everything in this entire facility, and you buy pesticides, and you do landscaping all the way back to the edges of the property, right? And by pesticides, I'm not saying like, oh, go spray your weed plants with pesticides. I'm saying that in the surrounding areas right now, you are covered. And I'm not one to go, say, spray some really harsh chemicals on the ground and things like that. There are pesticides and beneficials that can definitely help and prevent a barrier. But when it gets to that point, it's kill everything and bleach everything. And so they did that.
Yeah.
They killed everything.
Yeah, so
and I'm happy they did.
Now.
Well, they wanted the genetics, and now they're going to get them. You know, and I don't feel right about, number one, doing that to my plants, because whether you like it or not, that's a living organism, and we spend a lot of time, and they're what feeds my family. And so, if you think that I'm going to bring them here to let them get eaten, you got another thing coming. Number one. Number two, when you harvest and you show people these photos and these pictures and this flower, and you say you got the genetic from us, it makes me look like shit. And I don't want that either. So no, and you're going to need to follow these SOPs and these practices, and not just these SOPs for this genetic, this basic cultivation practices. And that's something that in Thailand it's crazy, because I don't think that they understand yet, some of the people here, that you can't treat it like other plants. You actually,
Sure.
The bugs love this plant. They seek it out just like we do, and so they're going to go to it. And once they're there, they're not leaving unless you do something drastic. And so, like you said, better for prevention than cure, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's the only way. And the way that we're doing it is, like I said, IPM. And we've just been consistent about that since the time we got in Thailand. And we literally, you've seen the plants. You've seen them the whole way through.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So...
I remember when your facility was empty, and then I remember when there was a few plants in there, and then I remember coming back and it was like, poof. Whoa, these guys are not messing about. You know what I mean? It seemed to happen overnight. It was maybe a couple of weeks or something since I'd last visited. But I remember being shocked. That it just exploded. Into what it is now, and it looks amazing now. It's always a nice thing for us when we can bring a client over, and show them your facility. Every single person we brought to your place has been really impressed. So that's a testament to you and your guys again. What you said there about sort of kind of across, without generalising too much here in Thailand, it's still, everything is still geared towards agriculture, and the real the real cannabis growing lessons are still developing. With the pests like you were talking about, but I've seen it with the medium as well. It gets produced here. So really,
so we could go into that. I actually just created a company. We just started it.
Tiger Cocoa, right?
Tiger Cocoa.
Yeah.
Tiger Cocoa. We are here, and we went through 19 companies to find a manufacturer of cocoa that didn't burn our plants and wasn't completely inconsistent. So we do a 70-30 perlite to cocoa ratio, or I guess it would be the other way around, cocoa to perlite ratio. So 70% cocoa, 30% perlite, charged with mycorrhizin. And we we had one company we thought was going to go great, and this is another thing I warn about Thailand. And the first batch, great, let's get another 100. So finally we buy 300 bags, and it gets there, and we do. I believe it was somewhere. I think 300 transplants just at the for the beginning stage, and all of a sudden they're locking out, and we're going, what's going on? And we're like, is it Athena? Is something going on? Oh, it can't be Athena. There's no way. And then I'm like, okay, let's check the runoff right now. We hadn't checked it. It was like the third day of transplant, and they were already locking out. And we checked it, right at the beginning, and then we checked it again. And all of a sudden, it's running an 8 EC, and I run downstairs, and I check the cocoa bags, and I'm finding like 6.8, 6.9, 7.0. And, from cocoa, you want to get anywhere between, 0.5 to 1.5. You could deal with. You still don't know what that 1.5 is, but if you get it from a proper company that's done things correctly.
Six is off the scale, right?
6 is absolutely off the scale. No plant's going to do anything in that environment but get sick. Yeah. And so we were able to call the owner of the cocoa company over, and I asked him, I said, what's going on here, man? And he tells me, he's like, oh, we started charging it for you. We started just charging for you, which is a complete lie. They just didn't wash it properly, probably. I don't know, but the inconsistency led me to dump the company and ask them to take the cocoa back, which, of course, they did not. So, needless to say, we were not going to use them as a manufacturer anymore, and we were able to find a company that manufactures for us, and we do the mixing ourselves and add the beneficials, but that cocoa is perfect every time. So it's triple washed, it's soaked for 3 days, and we've had no issues with it. Between that and using Athena, amazing products, and we've had, I believe every single client that I have, except for my Rockwool clients, of course, has asked me for media, and it's it's a big thing, and so we are pushing out to the market at a very fair price as well, and my man here, Jed King's distributing it, so get with him if you want to get at it.
Yeah, it's definitely something that we've been asked for continuously. Yeah. And I know you've gone through 19 companies to develop this brand of cocoa. We've done nowhere near 19, but it's, I don't know, 4 or 5 companies we've tried, and we've experienced the same issues. So it seems to me that it's across the board in Thailand, and I suppose that maybe that explains it. It's everything's wired up for agriculture, because I remember one guy, bless him, he was explaining why he put so much stuff in this cocoa. He was really happy about it. I've added this and I've added this and I've added this, and I was saying no, we don't want it. We want it neutral.
Yes.
That's what our growers want. They want it neutral, and he was just so pleased that he thought he was doing a great thing. Bless him. So very interesting. So I'm really happy that you've developed that brand, Tiger Cocoa, because I know my clients are going to really need for it, and I know they're going to love it. I've seen it working at your place, and I've seen the results, and the results speak for themselves, don't they?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, mate. Let's keep moving.
Yes.
Question number 8. Can you share any memorable experiences or milestones that have shaped your journey as a cannabis entrepreneur, and any specific accomplishments or breakthroughs that you are particularly proud of?
Sure. So accomplishment, my biggest one would be that seed breeding and genetics license, and being able to play with not just the below the threshold THC, but be able to do genetics on both sides by the federal government. Because there's no THC at that point, and then it's all research and development after that. So very cool, that they did that, and so. And for me to be able to do that, and me to be able to work with the college and the CDFA on expanding on the application that they had, because they had a very thin application. It was only about 5 or 6 pages long, and they said attach pages in your breeding programs. So I said, okay. So stapled on like 40 pages, and now that document is very thick.
Was Will involved in that?
Will actually no, this is Will was up in Northern California for that. So no, that one was me. That one was me.
Well done, mate. I kind of had an image of Will like just getting to work on it. You know what I mean?
I
'Cause
know.
That's the guy, isn't it?
He is, and he's so good and solid and organized with it. But these are genetics that I've been developing as well, and so keeping a breeding program was pretty. I don't know. I like it. My stuff's chicken scratch though, so it was all I had to type it up. I really like to have my notebooks, my breeding notebook. I'm a little old school, and then I take pictures of all of it. Right?
Yeah.
And then now it's like, oh, the government wants this. Okay, well, here we go. I better type it up, and then brought it into them, and I get a phone call. Hey, who the hell are you? And they called me, and the Department of Ag's talking with me, and their whole thought process on breeding was very backwards, and I was very confused, and so I came down and chatted with them, and the rest was history. That really expanded on what they understood as to be able to get that, and that was right at the beginning. I was number 6 to get that license, and now very few people have that license. It really got tightened up after they understood what was involved in it, because stabilizing genetics is such a big thing, especially if you're breeding 2 strains together. And a lot of people think that it's just chucking pollen in a tent, and that's not what it's all about, right? Now that there are some amazing strains that have been created through pollen chucking, don't get me wrong. But
when you say pollen chucking,
yes,
for the people that don't know, me
yeah.
included.
So pollen chucking is like, you call a pollen chucker like a breeder who uses a small tent or a very small room, and they're chucking pollen on stuff. It's sort of like the way we say it, just to see like, okay, maybe I'm going to get a winner. So you just the basics of breeding. You're taking a male and a female plant, and you're pollinating the female with the male plant. And this is before we're talking about feminization or selfing or BXing. This is just the basic breeding. And you're going to take the male stud, and the male's going to have the stronger dominant traits. So whichever one you want to have the more dominant traits, you're going to use the male stud from that, and you're going to use the pollen that it creates, because it creates these little pollen sacs that let the pollen off, and you're going to let that touch as soon as the hairs are starting to form on the female plant and they're starting to come out. You're going to pollinate the female with the male's pollen. That's just the super basic way to bring it out. And there's guys that'll make a new genetic and then they won't even stabilize it. So now there could be a hidden trait in that genetic that people didn't know was there, that's not going to express itself until they start cutting clones and they start selling them to people. And that's what we're seeing here in Thailand, is people who are having unverified, unproven genetics, and they're not stabilizing anything, or they're just pheno hunting and they haven't even stabilized those. And a lot of good strains have come off just straight pheno hunting, and we've been lucky to have things like the MAC, Miracle Alien Cookies. A great,
excuse me.
No worries. Bless your soul. Bless your soul.
Excuse me. Sorry, mate.
But
so, sorry, mate. So to stabilize a genetic,
yeah.
How does one make a genetic stable?
So there's a few different ways to do it. There's back crossing and selfing. I do prefer selfing quite a bit. Each time you stabilize the genetic, it's going to stabilize 50% about. And you're going to basically turn a female plant into a ladyboy.
Okay.
Okay, without giving any too many secrets, but you're going to turn it into a transvestite, and you're going to take that pollen and you're going to go ahead and take that pollen and repollinate it with itself. And then you're going to take the offspring of that. You're going to choose a winner from that, of the seeds that's produced by that. So that's like just a quick way. Those next seeds are going to be S1, and those will be 50% more stable than the original genetic that you popped from pheno hunting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard a lot. Guys who are in your field, clone providers. I've heard a lot of clients have bought from various places, and then all the plants have turned into hermaphrodites. What's going wrong there, Jordan?
Well, there's a couple things that are going wrong. You know, you have a dormant hermaphroditic trait inside the plant that might not express itself from that branch, you know, and it might come out later, and it might come out from a different offspring, and it might come out because you stress the plants, and some plants are more stable than others, and when you stabilize them, let's say maybe it had a hermaphroditic trait before, well, now that you've stabilized it, you've actually pulled out that hermaphroditic trait, whereas maybe that first generation, you know, that you brought is not going to be stable whatsoever. So, or it might express itself later, and that's the last thing you want to do. Or maybe it's, you know, you get to the point, well, we're going to dive off into a whole other trail here, but there's, you know, F1, F2, F3, F4, F5 fully inbred, right? And so you'll see the F1 is a pretty stable strain, actually. And then when you hit F2, it's going to lose its stability. F3 will be more stable. F4 will be very unstable. F5 will be incredibly stable. And do it again, you have the holy grail. You have a fully inbred line. That's almost completely rare to come by in cannabis genetics. It's very rare. In California, they're requiring for the CDFA to stamp and approve, they want an F5 generation minimum or fully inbred strain. Yeah. Otherwise, it will not be certified. So that's, we're talking years and years and years and years of work, and really understanding the plant. You know, your selecting process is so important. You know, selecting what phenotype to go with. You know, in your selecting of what, let's say you're crossbreeding, in selecting the male and or the female plant that you want to cross. But there's just, it's super quick, dumbed down overview of it. But you know, I just, you know, I get afraid of these guys that they're out here, they're pheno hunting, and they're just popping seeds and they're selling it to people, or the guys out here who are pheno hunting from the same batch of seeds. They're not even running them, and they're cutting clones and they're giving them to people, and we're seeing some really, really sad cases with people that are about to lose everything because somebody sold them an unproven, non-stable genetic. You know, the most important things that we're looking for is unique, uniform, and stable. That's what I'm looking for when I'm looking at a genetic. I want to know that it's unique, it's different from the rest, there's something that really stands out. It's uniform. That means now when I cut clones of it, right, everything's just going to be very uniform all the way. The traits are not going to be they're not going to be any varying in traits that could be throughout it from it being unstable, and obviously the stability, you know, making sure that the plant does not have some sort of issues, like if you were into the F2 range, you know, you're going to get an incredibly unstable plant, which is weird because you think, well, but I'm at the F2 series, but that's not how breeding works. You know, breeding goes through phases, and by the time, you know, it makes it to F5, all of a sudden you have an incredibly stable strain. You do it one more time and it's inbred, which sounds sort of weird, but that is the most stable genetic that you can actually create.
I think on that subject, you know, we don't want to ask you to give too much away in your secrets and you know your hard work that you're putting over the years. We don't want to go too deep into that on this show, but I think it's important that we've scratched the surface on that for people who do want to come to Thailand. It's definitely something that people need to watch out for if they're going to invest, you know, in the industry here. And you offer consultation, right? So,
absolutely.
So you know, certainly the man that I'd go to, you know, at my level of knowledge, you know, which is more than your average investor who wants to do it. So, you know, let's just say straight right now, if you are going to invest, you know, you find somebody who knows what they're talking about, you know, like you guys, and
100%.
I don't know too many others, to be honest, but I think that's very important if somebody is going to inject cash into this, and you know, certainly one for the investors, because one thing that makes me feel a little bit unsettled and a bit uncomfortable about this Thai cannabis industry is the large number of people who have lost money, you know, because they're listening to the false prophets, the guys who promise the world and deliver nothing, the guys who claim to know things that they don't. You know, so I think that's worth mentioning. You know, that's definitely something for somebody to take on board if they do want to come into this industry. And I think it's great that you're offering offering the consultation service, to put these guys right and help them, not only with the genetics, but help them with the formula to create a profitable grow operation.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, mate, so question 9. Education plays a crucial role in challenging the existing stigmas around cannabis. How do you prioritize educating your customers and the larger community about the benefits and potential of the cannabis plant?
Sure. Yeah. Education is incredibly important. I was going to be involved with a workshop over at Athena just to sort of give a quick overview of things over there, but nothing too in depth. I got to go in depth a lot more at the Highland conference that you also got to speak at. It was very cool.
Yeah, we did. I was very proud to be on the stage. I think I was right before you.
Yep.
Right. That was amazing. You know what I mean? Obviously, mine was about business, and yours was about genetics. And what a show and what a platform.
Yeah, it was great. It was really good. And I gotta speak on educating people about the importance of genetics and talking about how I think it was also a big bottleneck for why so many illegal imports. I think that getting genetics in the hands of the farmers here is crucial because people still want those designer strains. They want those, and people are out here pheno hunting. It's going to be a while before they can produce them for people. And so I think that it's incredibly important to be educated on the genetic that you're growing and the market that you're growing it for, but also education on general cultivation practices. I think is huge. I am going to get a speak at the hemp conference coming up here in November, so looking forward to that. It's going to be an open forum, so it's going to be some banter back and forth from what I understand. I think it's going to be about 45 minutes, something like that. So actually I'll be linking up with Preet Marwa tomorrow. He's coming over to see my facility, do a little tour. Good friend of mine and someone that I met when I first got here in Thailand at the previous conference last year in November, the first hemp conference. And it was actually through my work that I did in California that they were able to find me, and they hunted me down in America. But I was coming here as they were going there, and he was a big part of me being able to come out here. He's a great cannabinoid scientist from Canada. Was also spoke before the UN many times, worked in the food industry, helping with like food standards for 20 plus years, and then switched over to hemp. Great guy. He'll be moderating, so he'll be there. And I'm just really looking forward to doing more educational things. You were there when Sam from the Thai CBG farm.
Oh,
right?
sure.
And he asked me
to
to do a class. And so I think we're going to be doing some workshops the day of the grand opening at my facility. I'm still working on the date for that. But we're going to be doing a grand opening and a workshop, and we'll do the workshop during the day, and it'll be sort of a party at night,
Yeah.
And we'll have you guys there talking about your company. We'll have Athena there talking about their company, as they're the best nutrient line in the world. So, and that's what we use, and we wouldn't use anything else. So it's going to be good. They're going to be coming out as well and doing some workshop stuff, and I just think people getting educated on what it really takes to last in this industry, and that it's not a quick money grab. Guys, if you're trying to get a quick money grab, it's the wrong business, man. Go figure out crypto, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Shout out to our guy over here on the ones and twos, Cryptomania over there. So he's a good guy taking care of us today with the mics and everything. So very cool. But yeah, I mean, if you like that type of business, that volatile, high risk, high reward shit, go to the stock market, do crypto. If you want to work your ass off, and you want to have some ups and downs, you want to fight some battles, come on over here. Come on over to this side. If you're just a straight investor, like I can't say it enough. Surround yourself by, with a good team and someone who's doesn't just talk the talk.
Yeah.
Someone that has proven themselves and can prove it to you.
Yeah.
And that's what you're going to need. Someone who's already done it, and you're going to have to offer them a lot of money, because if they're already doing it well, they're probably doing it themselves.
Yeah.
Or they've already got investors.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a hard find. but you can do it. But there are good growers that exist, But
well, I'm really pleased that you are running these courses. I think there's a real need for it, and I've seen people like Sam from Thai CBG. He literally signed himself up.
Yeah.
When visiting his farm. When's your course? I want to go on it. There's a real need for it, and I'm personally excited to see the impact that's going to have across the industry in Thailand. I think it'll be huge, and the more people that are in a position to offer 5-star educational quality education, and courses for the Thai growers, the better.
Yeah.
The better in every area
Sure.
of the market. I'd really like to see that increase. See guys here, really getting involved and showing these guys. There are people doing it, but they're a bit few and far between right now, I think. So I'm really pleased that you are doing that, and I'm excited to see what impact that has. And I know that's in line with your mission and with our mission, so let's go.
Absolutely, man. Let's go. Let's do it. It's going down, man.
Okay, mate, number 10. What advice would you give to an aspiring cannabis entrepreneur who are looking to enter the industry? Any key lessons you have learned and value that you can add to them? I know we've touched on this a fair bit, so kind of in conclusion.
Yeah. In conclusion, there's no shortcuts in this business.
Mm-hmm.
There are none. Even if you were to buy clones from me, you're not going to see a penny for 4 months. Okay,
Yeah.
You're not. You're gonna have to do the veg. You're gonna have to do the bloom, and you're gonna have to do the harvest, and you're gonna have to do the cure, and you're gonna have to sell the shit. So don't expect to just come into this business and make money overnight. Now, if you come into this business and you could do everything perfect, things can still go wrong. One thing that the guy who taught me how to grow said to me, and I'll never forget it. He goes, there's literally nothing. You have nothing until you turn that flower into cash and it's in your hand.
Sure.
You have nothing. And I want you to remember that. So, and it's true. If you don't have a market, you can make as much weed as you want, man. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Okay? So remember that, and just there's really no in between. You're either doing medical right now, or you're making 10 out of 10 weed. And if you can't do that, don't come here, because you're going to be wasting your money and you're going to be wasting your time. And surround yourself with a good team. You find a good supplier for hydroponic equipment. If your team can't do the construction, then you need to find a good team, a good contracted team, and you need a good consultation. And you put all those things together, a lot of hard work, and a really good artist. And by artist, I'm talking about cannabis artist, and
Sure.
That's what growers really
You
are.
need a will.
You need a will.
Yeah.
You need a will.
I don't
Sorry.
know. Yeah. Sorry, the rest of the
He's with
team
me.
needed all the.
And and Alan as well. I mean, I can't say enough about Alan. This guy can literally fix a tractor, build a rocket, build a grow. This is the guy I've surrounded myself with. He is a winner. He has a heart of absolute gold. The guy is like a brother to me. He is my brother. You know what I'm saying? He's just, I've known him his entire life. He's a little younger than me, but since we were babies, and he's, I couldn't do it without him. We're like the three amigos, We each have different strengths and if you're just an investor, you think you could just throw money at this and walk away, man. You have another thing coming.
You need at least a power 3.
You need at least a power
you've got
3,
your
man.
power 3, those guys. I've got my power 3. Jim and Matt from Icon International, and my partners over there in the UK. And you've got to have it.
Yep.
There's no way I would have succeeded with this business if it wasn't for those guys.
Yep.
We all lean on each other to make it work. I've done more leaning on them than they have on me, because I'm the new guy in the industry. Between the guys at Icon International have got 100 years of experience. Jim, the owner, incredible man. Everything you've said about your guys, I would say about Jim and more. We're on the same page there. With those guys, we've got that core relationship, and I think it's a solid foundation to start a successful cannabis business. If you don't have that, then my God, we've seen what happens when you don't have that.
Oh my!
And it falls apart and everything implodes and everyone's, trying to get one over on each other. It's a mess, isn't it?
It's a mess.
But just to comment on Alan, Alan is just a big ball of love in my eyes. Most helpful, lovely, polite man ever with an amazing mind. I'll never forget coming over to your facility and your place is how big?
2,300 square meter.
So it's a big old building, and you got 3 floors, right?
3 floors.
So there's a lot of wiring that goes with a place that big, especially when you're running as much electricity as you guys are with, lighting and dehumidification, all that kind of stuff. And I'll never forget the image of Al with the electric box open and wires everywhere. It was a mess, wasn't it? It was a real problem. And that man's mind just worked it all out, with makeshift equipment. Incredible.
And if he was here right now, he would give out a shout out to my brother who passed, who's a great electrician, and Alan worked by his side for about 8 months, and Alan can now do everything electrical. You tell that guy, Alan, something one time, show him how to build it, or even if you don't show him how, and he was able to retain all that information and do that box that gives me or you anxiety to the max. Like I couldn't do that. That's great. Plus in Thailand, 3-phase, different setup than what we're using in America, and every single connection was loose. There was just different, just the wrong size wires in places. And Alan is, with your father-in-law,
I mean, well, we got a bit of an insight into how bad that job was because my father-in-law has worked on building sites all of his life. He's kind of a jack of all trades. He can do a bit of everything, a bit of plumbing, a bit of electrics, this and that. And, so I know he helped Alan, but I remember when he came home for his dinner that evening, and he just, to say, just so bad. It was so bad, even by his standards, and he's Thai, right? He's more used to seeing it than we are. So he said it was terrible, and also, with Alan, my father-in-law, his English is limited, right? And the way he worked with him, calm and no frustration at all, with such a hard job. My father-in-law's helping him, but he doesn't speak the language, so I think everything took Alan twice as long to do because he's got to explain to people who are helping him through Google Translate or whatever. So it's an even bigger task, and just real credit to Alan for keeping his cool and still treating people with respect and still having his integrity in a very, very stressful situation, when so much is on the line with such a big facility and everyone's relying on this electrical work to function. Talk about pressure.
Yeah.
So it's really testament to Alan, for fixing that and doing it in style.
Yes. What a stud.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah.
It looks great. Everything's running tits.
Yeah.
So, I'm very pleased, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, super.
Very cool, mate. Very cool. And we wish you all the luck in the world, and that's what you deserve because we know the work you're putting in. It's incredible. So, last question, mate, for this podcast, which has been amazing. Thoroughly enjoyed it. How do you see the Thai cannabis industry developing over the next 12 months?
It's going to be a roller coaster.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a roller coaster. And I see, I'm hearing things about everything from illegal imports getting you 10 years in prison coming up here in 2 months.
Right.
So those are the words on the street.
Yeah.
Also, it's going to be going very, very far to the medical side. Mm-hmm. There's going to be a track and trace system in place from seed to sale. Yeah, this is all. If you guys want to get in this business, get ready to hear about all this stuff.
Yeah.
And also, they're going to be putting in GMP and GACP measures, from what I understand, in the facilities, which are going to shut down probably half the facilities. They're going to close smoking lounges.
For people who don't know
Yes.
about that certification, can you just explain, what that is and what it involves?
Yeah, good agricultural practices, right? And they're different organizations that basically say, this has to be done this way. This has to be done this way. Excuse me. You can't have, like your air conditioners, they got to have a box over it. The floor's got to be a certain way, you have to have the ISO walls going, there's all these specifications. And so if you think you're coming over here to do a guerrilla grow, guys, it's not going to work out, because you're going to get in trouble here after a couple months. It's not just a free-for-all anymore. Yep, they did it. They did the free-for-all thing.
Yeah.
I'm worried for a lot of guys that came and put a lot of money into this and don't have enough money to push it to the next level. And they're just going to have to leave everything behind, because if not, they're going to go to jail. So the market's going to be a roller coaster. It's going to be up and down all around. I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, the government just changed. There's a new prime minister, and that's the reason all these rules and regs are coming down. So there's some people that I'm working with closely that are working with writing legislation. So even they aren't 100% on everything, but there's definitely a lot of changes coming up in about 2 months. And from what I understand, it's not like America where they're like, okay, next year on this date it's going into effect. No, it's going into effect like that. So if you're not prepared, get ready.
Yeah.
Get ready.
Yeah, that's certainly the style for Thailand, isn't it? Once they say we're doing this, just like legalization, it's legal, it's done.
Boom.
I think we're going to see the same with the regulations. When they come in, that's it.
Yep.
You don't meet these standards, like you say, they're going to be in trouble. I think if somebody is looking to come here, there are opportunities. We're not trying to scare people off, and we're just trying to give people the reality of what's going on. And one thing that we know is there's never been more farms for sale, cannabis farms for sale in Thailand right now. Baba Fat's brought that up on the last on the episode that we filmed with him, and it's there are opportunities if people do it the right way. People who aren't doing it properly and know that they're going to be in trouble. They're selling the farms now. I think that's important for somebody who does want to come in. There are things that are set up that need adjustments, get the right certification and do it properly.
Yep.
So there's still an abundance of opportunity in this market, I believe, but for the people who are doing it right.
Exactly. So if you think you're coming in and going to take shortcuts, it's not going to work like that. I'm not trying to scare anybody off. I just want, come on in, but be ready to do it the right way.
Yeah.
Or you're going to get chewed up and spit out.
Yeah. Do it the right way and help the country, help the people of this country, help the people who are using the end product.
Yep.
The damage that some of the practices are doing to people just who are smoking it recreationally. The stuff they're spraying on it, and these people who just want the cash.
Right.
It all needs to stop, in my opinion.
Yes.
It all needs to stop. If you're just somebody who likes to smoke a joint now and again, then you should have the right to have something that's grown properly, that's not harmful in terms of chemicals that have been sprayed on, and medically it's got to do what it's supposed to do. We know it's a wonderful, amazing plant medically, and the people who are not doing it right, it doesn't sit well with me. I don't like it. It's too much of a special plant and a special industry for that to go on. So I will welcome the regulations, and hopefully we can get more professionals like yourself into the Thai cannabis market. And we can all do things the right way and help each other.
Fully agreed.
Okay, Mr. Jordan Herring, I think that is a nice place to leave it. And mate, I'm just, every time we communicate and spend time together, I'm blown away by you as an individual, and I really mean that. I had a long call with Jim, my partner, the other night, and Jim's the closest friend I've got on this planet, and he can't wait now to come and spend some time with you. We've certainly, got to know what each other are about,
Yes.
over this time, and we're on the same page. And I appreciate your friendship.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you as an individual and a person, and I appreciate the way you are leading the way by example. There's no ego with you, mate, and there's no Charlie Big Spuds and looking down on people. You don't get that, and it's rare for somebody in your position. You are a leader, a market leader, and it's just really really a pleasure to be involved with you and your guys. And thank you, mate, for coming on the Clippers to Cannabis podcast. Thank you for being so open and honest with everybody. Thank you for your information, and just thank you for being a good human being.
Amen. Well, thank you, and I feel the same way about you, and looking forward to the future that we have here in Thailand, my man. So I'll be back anytime you want me.
Cool, brother.
All right, my man.
Happy days.
Happy days.